Good morning, guys. Thank you, Alex. This is Simon with toughtrader.com and Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the market preview for the 16th of November. So before we get started, one area where I don't cover every time is let's get what econ we have on the table and up in front of everybody so we know what's going on. Here we go. And we will pull up. Well, if it will come up. Here we go. And we have Thursday, 9:15. That's 8:15. We have wow, that's an odd time, isn't it? But yeah, 8:15 capacity utilization rate in individual production. Excuse me, that's right. That's right. 9:15 is 8:15. Okay, got it. 9 a.m. we have housing market index, obviously not incredibly important. Let's see, that is not, this is a tentative. FOMC member Kaplan is speaking, tentative, doesn't give a time. And then right 15 minutes before the close, Brainard speaks at 2:45. That's all we have on the agenda there. So pretty much the only one I'm worried about, or would even, it probably has no net effect, housing market index, 9 a.m. Okay, next, let's get Globex high and low in really quick. Came right into the yellow zone, which would have, again, I noted in the charts that I posted to the members that this zone would normally be a white zone. It did reject out of here the first time in. The Globex low came in at 25.62 1/4, which would have put us right here. And I will go look in a minute how that handled it overnight. I'm not quite so concerned with it right now. More of the upside. Importantly on this chart, so before we get into the day and what we're looking for, right? For those of you that are new, there's two things that are really important. So number one, when you are trading during the day, if you are trading both ES and NQ at the same time, right, and you put on a position in ES and you put on a position in NQ, you essentially have the same position in terms of the market move, right? Usually if ES goes up, NQ will go up. If NQ goes down, ES will go down, right? They both tend to move hand in hand. That is important in situations like this where you're getting swept through areas. If you go in, you take an ES position and you go in and put in an NQ position and we get a move like this. This was the biggest bar, I think, this month in the first 30 minutes of the day, right? You end up with a double exposed position. The next thing that I'm going to discuss that's really important, right, is on the members' private Twitter stream and in the market preview yesterday morning, I really emphasized that I was expecting increased violence. Violent would be a right description to describe what happened here, right? Yesterday morning. Let me go to the chart here. This is yesterday's charts. I don't think I screwed them up. I don't think I changed them at all. There we go. I said I expected increased volatility in the first 30 minutes, right? And that you needed to make a simple decision as a trader, right? You needed to decide whether or not you could handle taking stops early in the morning, right? And then functioning, meaning being able to move over and still being able to take your trades through the course of the day, right? And I'm going to talk about that in just a second, right? But I did take a stop early in the morning. I cut my trade size, and I did not trade both ES and NQ. I was simply taking an NQ position because I thought I had the best risk reward in NQ versus ES. I took it on smaller size, right? And I said if I got stopped on my first trade, I would be full size at the 62.29 to 62.20. It just missed, right? Now, I was upset about that, but I stopped trading, right? I stopped trading because my natural instinct, and I find a lot of traders have this instinct, that when you miss a key location and the market flies against you, you get mad, and then you start wanting to short, right? You start wanting to short against that position because you feel like the market owes you. My way of dealing with that is to stop trading, right? I've lost enough money playing that game where I just know I'm beaten beaten, right? I had the right location. I didn't get filled, but that was my home run trade, right? I wrote the night before, this is the trade I wanted. I was looking for the trap back in. It never gave me a backside test in the morning time. This is the other area, the 62.24 was the other area I was looking to get long. It never gave me that test for the continuation up to where we're trading this morning, right? So I just have to shrug my shoulders. I was mad. Don't get me wrong. I was mad at the market. The market doesn't care that I was mad. The only thing I was going to do was trade poorly after that. So I withdrew from the arena. Didn't take any more trades. That's okay. Okay. The part that's not okay is if you are trying to trade in this first half hour, you cannot handle the losses early in the day, right? This actually financially hurts you so that you can't continue through the day. And my suggestion is we've had tons of trades pop up outside the first hour of the day. There's less volatility. There's more predictability in the rotations, right? And you can address it calmly, and it takes up less emotional energy and psychological energy to trade outside, certainly outside the first half hour, but outside the first hour, certainly. So it's something for you to consider. That's a decision that only each individual trader can make, right? But there have been plenty of trading opportunities throughout the week and throughout this month outside the first hour, and it is a falsehood that you can't wait that first hour and still have a good trading day, okay, particularly in this environment. So let's move on with our charts for today, right? So Globex high, Globex low. Key areas on ES that I plan to attack, 2581 to 2583, right? This is a key area. It's already been tested pre-market. We're going to talk about the gap in just a second. And then finally, 2589 to 2591. The only concern I have about this area, right, I would like to see us stop one timing to the upside, right? If we are all the bars, right, if all the bars open up and we look like this right here, wow, that's a horrible color. Let's fix that, right? If all the bars look like this, see how let me blow this up so you can see a little bit closer, right? Because this is all process, right? Ask yourself, you should have that question. Can we get underneath the prior 5-minute bar? The low, the question should be on your checklist. Can we get underneath the prior 5-minute bar when we're moving up? If you can't, I want to say this again. If you cannot get below the prior 5-minute bar, much less the 15, right? Here's what it looked like on the 15. You should have both versions up, right? Here's the 15-minute bar, right? Look how big that, first of all, look how big that first 15-minute bar. It is the biggest 15-minute bar of the month, hands down. It was really violent. It was really straight down. And we knew that that was a possibility coming, right? But the next question is when we're going up is, can we get underneath the last 15-minute bar as we're pushing up? This bar is the first bar, right? This bar is the first bar that gets underneath the last 15-minute bar. That occurs at what time of the day? 11:15 a.m., New York lunch, right? If you'll notice, there's now a change in behavior. Forget the zones, right? We're just talking about a change in behavior. There's now a change in behavior. I want to watch my time so I don't get carried away. There's a change in behavior now, and you start getting two-sided trades. See that? All of a sudden we go from one way, two-sided trade. We got above, right? We got above the last sellers. Unfortunately, it was all one bar, right? This is part of our trade plan, is to get above the sellers and look for entry. Never gave it to us, right? Not early in the day. That's just too bad that it worked out that way. I would have preferred to see it work out like this. Would have been much easier, right? Where we get above our last seller, we get a 50-60 back and push. So this is a good contrast, and I want everyone to see it so you understand from a price action standpoint what we're looking for. We get the same vertical move that we had here. What we would have wanted is to get one last sell bar, like this bar right here, get underneath it. Then when we close on top of that, see how we've closed on top? Now we can do a 50-60 back. We have a defined stop 1 point below the low, or you might want to have adjusted it to below Globex low, and that would have given you the ride to the upside. It just didn't develop yesterday. That part you shouldn't be mad about. Just didn't work out, right? You knew not to short, right? Once we got above this. Now we get two-sided action. And I went through and yesterday and laid out. Alex did a great job, took the long on NQ right here instead of ES. But that PA is very important. It should be on your checklist. So simple question. Can we get above or below? You have time to observe this, right? You don't have to fly into action immediately if you are not highly skilled and adept at moving around, okay? And it was the same thing. Again, this is the first time we closed underneath a 5-minute bar all the way through this rip up, and that's when the two-sided price, that's when the character of the market changed, and you could start shorting and getting long and having two-sided trade, right? Okay, so let's go to NQ, get the Globex high and low in really quick, and then we'll break down the volume profile charts really quickly. So I expect for today, by the way, let me give my expectation on this. We are gapping up into, this is on my other computer. This is the 1 hour, I believe. That is a 1 hour profile. I need to adjust it here for a second here. Let's erase this. Let's analysis, clean chart. Okay, so I am measuring back to the 27th from the gap to yesterday's close. 63.11. We are currently trading at 62.9375, right? 63.11, okay, is the high volume node. This is the second one. So yeah, 62.93, lo and behold, right where we're trading. Globex high 62.98, right? This is going to be a resistance area. All the volume, the heaviest volume is upstairs here, right? You can bet that 63.11 is a gap, open gap and a gap fill, right? You can see that from the hourly chart. And you can bet dollars to donuts, there is going to be someone who's going to try to short that 63.1175. So expect, even though we're gapping up, right? If you look to the left, we are gapping right into a world of resistance. See that? That argues against open drive higher, right? So what would you expect? I would expect rejection in the 63.91, but particularly towards 63.1175. I expect rejection, right? And then the next question I have is quite simply, here's the high of the day. That is 62.81 1/4. So we are gapping above value. I'm going to break this down just a second. We are gapping above value. Value's here. You don't have to see the chart. You can see all the volume had to go off right here. We just stood in place, right? We've had lower highs. 1, 2, 3, 4 lower highs. We are gapping up. Quite often, I'm going to go back and show you this. When you get a series of gap downs, okay, so if you look through this period here, so we can see it a little bit better. You get a series of down days, right? Pushes down, pushes down, pushes down, pushes down. We gap up, right? So if I draw that same profile here, let's say I go swing high to swing low, right? Notice that's where my point of control is on this push, right? Notice on this push down, so this is a little bit different because we gap, but we didn't gap out of range. We closed near the low, we opened near the high, we got initial rejection, filled the gap, pushed. The next day we gap up. See how we gap out of range right here? Gap out of range, and we push where? Right to the point of control, 59.39. So we can have a model of what this might look like. So we push towards that 59.39, reject. Remember, this is a 1 hour bar, right? It's a big bar. We reject, we push down. Here's the prior day's high, right? We push into value, but failed to close into value. We consolidated and based all day long. Obviously, this ran for 2 days, so you can go look at it closer. Opened, pushed in, found responsive buyers, consolidated, right? And then the next day we pushed out, and then you can see we filled in the gap here because why? This is the highest volume node, so we end up grinding through here. It's hard. It's hard to build up the energy. So what happened here is we started down underneath this point of control. We pushed all the way through and above to this low volume node, which was right here, right? Try to get above. We did get above, but they ran out of energy, pushed it back in. Then finally, you'll see we gapped again, pushed back, tested top of value, and finally pushed. And you can see because we had this big volume build here, it was pretty much a grind all the way through and all the way up, right? And you can see all the volume sitting here to the left. We can use the same levels and the same concept here. We have pushed down, right? We clearly have support below, right? We are not bearish from an hourly perspective unless we get below 62.1675, and really it's impulse move below 62.1675, the market's not bearish. This really looks like a pullback to break out to me, to come back and retest these highs. Okay, we have some volume sitting above us. We are gapping right towards resistance, right towards this heavy volume build right in here, and we have a low volume node stuck right in the middle there. I don't know if you see it, but it's stuck right there at 63.01. This whole area becomes an area of resistance. So the questions I have on my list are, I'm not worried about the open drive higher, but I don't want to short it either till I have evidence that they're going to reject somehow. If I'm going to attempt to reject, it'll be from the 63.1175 on reduced trade size, number one. Number two, when we push back towards 62.80, do we overlap value? Can we close back into 62.81 and a quarter? So even if we open up, where's my drawing tool? And I'll move to ES after this because I've had my limit on NQ. We open up and we push up, right? I want to see rejection down. And when we come back, do we either hold above the high or do we make an attempt at the gap fill, right? One of the two, and then push out. If we don't overlap value, I'm going to assume that we're going to push out because why? Bears have gotten encouraged by two things. First of all, the large rotations to the downside is going to invite people to want to push down. Every push down is trap people, right? And instead of I'm not overly geeked up about shorting. If I short, it'll be on reduced size and it has to work quickly. What I am geeked up about is seeing pushes down on heavy effort with an inability to make any progress. And what I'm really looking for is if we push down, once we get above my last seller, I'm looking to get long for a push back out. And I'm expecting it, because we're in this high volume node, I'm expecting it to be grindy instead of zip fast. We'll see what the market gives us, but that's what I'm anticipating. I know in this area. My other scenario there, right, is if we open up, open drive lower, fall back into value and fail to get back above 62.80, that opens us up for a test back towards 62.20, right? I think that's the long shot, but that's the other side. There may be news today out on the tax issue, right? I am looking to buy pushes down for pushes back up. I'm not bearish on NQ. There's just nothing bearish. This is an all-time high right here. It'd be pretty easy to hit. Any questions over NQ? Did I cover what my trade plan is pretty clearly? I will attempt a small size short to swing back down, but it's a scalp in nature, and I'm looking for heavy pushes down and then big effort to get lower with an inability to do so and push back up. I'll cover the overnight. Clearly, overnight inventory is long. It would not be surprising, since we're gapping into resistance, to see them shake those overnight longs loose first, right, before continuing higher, if we're going to continue higher. Any questions, guys? And my Skype is not open. 1 second. Let me get that fixed. No questions. Okay, good. That's doing a good job. Okay, next. Let's go look at ES really quick. Big picture, ES, 60 minutes. See that high volume node, 2573 to 2578. Where are we opening? Right in the middle. What has been the behavior in this area? Well, let's go look. Let's go on a 10-minute chart and take a little trip so everyone remembers. We have 10 minutes to the open, right? So there's that high volume node. Look at the price action we had inside that high volume node. Let's go back a little bit further. We had one day where we ripped straight through. That was news driven, thanks to Mr. Trump, right? Look at the price behavior that's been predominant. So we switched, right? We've traded straight through there a couple of times, right? But the majority of the time what it's been is this grind, right? I understand that we've had one time where we've ripped through, but if you go through and look, the reason why it's a high volume node is because we keep grinding through here, right? So I could anticipate that it's going to run through like this, right? But I know something pretty clearly. In order to get freedom to move above, I got to get above 2578 and a quarter. See that? Rejected, backside tested, Once it gets above and gets free, it really kind of has room to roam above 25.78 and a quarter. But I know inside of there, right, that on both sides of that, I have had difficulty in here. So what do I want to do psychologically in this area? Slow down. I don't want to overtrade it. I don't want to anticipate that it's going to roll down. I don't want to anticipate that it's going to roll up. I either want to look for backside tests into this area for continuation higher, or I want to see us get underneath 25.73 for a push lower. Again, we are gapping out of range. We're currently trading 25.74 and a quarter. That puts us right here. Right? So my first question is do we have the ability to close inside prior day's high? That's the gap for Dalton. And do we have ability to close the regular market close, which is the gap for most people, right? If we can't, even if we push in, but we fail to overlap value, or we test in, but then close out on a, let's say a 15-minute bar or a 10-minute bar, I will expect that we will slowly grind up to 78 and a quarter. And then I will not assume the breakout unless we can close above and then push higher, right? On the other hand, if we reject straight out of here, right, push back in and then fail to get back above 71.50, I will assume that the range is open again to get swept, and that this low can get broken. And then I'm very keen on looking for longs at between 25.52 and 25.47, which if we go back to the 1 hour bar, you will see that area that we begin to have, we have a pronounced low volume node parked right there at 25.50.75. There's very little volume that went off in here, so expect volatility in this area, but I expect a response between that 25.50 and that 25.45 area, those two areas. I expect a response back up to retest that 25.65 backside test. That would also be an impulse move. And then that would also, taking our ranges into account, right? We're moving from 25.71, we're trading 25.74. If I take away 25 points, that puts me at 25.50, right? So yes, I'm expecting a response out of this area. If I get it, I don't anticipate, obviously with a gap up, that's a pretty big stretch to say we're going to be able to test 25.50, but I have in my notes that I'm ready to go in this area, right? So let me go get Globex high and low on the chart really quick, and then we'll look at the overnight if we have time. But obviously inventory is long overnight. There's no question about it. And I'm planning to I want to see what the PA looks like off the open, and then I'll make a determination on what I'm going to do. I'm not in a rush this morning. 10, and very key and very important, 10-point rotations in ES have been hitting daily and have been key locations for contra location, right? That does not mean there's 10 points. Let me take the trade the other way. That means there's 10 points. Let me look very closely at this area for clues that we might get a turn. What is that setup going to look like, right? Conversely, right? Well, not conversely, on NQ, 30-point rotations have been key. If you look yesterday morning on NQ, I got to get Globex high low on this. Yesterday morning on NQ, open 62.69, right? I take away 30 from 69, that is 39. That puts you right here at 40 within 10 points of the low. There's the counter rotation. From 62.30, we go to 62.60. You will notice that they started to try to counter rotate, right? Why is this different? Because we've gotten over the halfway point of our sellers. We're about to get above our sellers. I don't want to be short here. This total rotation goes from 30, 60, almost two full 60-point rotations. We finally get below our last sellers, and then we start working that trade sideways. And I pointed out the low volume node here at the end of the day. I think Alex is the only one who took a long out of here, but you did a very good job, Alex, of taking that long and pushing back to the upside. This trade right here, this was 16 points in about 10 minutes, right? I don't normally encourage anyone to trade at the end of the day, but that was a fantastic risk reward. If that had taken place any place else other than the close, I'd have killed for this trade. The other place we took the trade yesterday, 62.62, I did not manage that trade well. I had my stop too tight. That was worth approximately 15 points to the upside. That's $300 a contract. Again, you don't have to trade the first hour to get good trade location. Okay, let's get Globex high and low in, 62.9850, just above. So the dark blue line is Globex high, and Globex low came in way down there. And then the Russell, guys, white zones, pretty simple. As long as we don't get an open drive one way or the other, first touch of the white zone, 62, 60, 75. That's close enough for hand grenades, right? Okay, so to reiterate, make sure that everyone's on the same trade plan and we're all good. If you cannot tolerate stops and you need the highest odds, you want a 30-point rotation in NQ. Means you're going to have to be patient, right? If the market opens up and drives away, I do not care. My goal is not to catch every open drive higher. As far as I can tell, we're gapping into resistance. I expect open auction, not open drive, because we are gapping into resistance. Okay, if we get something different, I'll have to adjust. But I will not be chasing this morning. I'm looking for 30-point rotations down. I'm looking for tests into Wednesday's high, right? I want to see how it behaves there. I want to see how it behaves. I would expect at the open gap, we have a volume point of control, a TPO point of control, and a Globex low. I'd expect a response out of this area. Inventory is obviously long overnight. I got 2 minutes so I can show this. See all the time we've spent up here overnight? Here's a letter in blocks. Okay. Here's the overnight, right? We are clearly in trend up. We've spent a lot of time up here. The overnight point of control from TPO standpoint is 62.91. The volume point of control is 62.95. Everyone is packed in here, right? So the question is, we are now above prior day's value. Here's value, right? So that means that I'm going to assume support is below since I have value below, right? I'm going to assume there's buyers that are packed in trying to catch an open drive higher. So I'm going to assume the shakeout, as long as we hold above the point of control down here at 62.72 to 62.64. After the shakeout, I'll assume a test back out. If I see rotation size decrease significantly, I will assume slow grind towards 63.11. And at 63.11, I will probably take a shot at the short side on reduced size, but I prefer to find a push down and to find them trapped. Additionally, we are one timing to the upside on a 30-minute bar. This 30-minute bar will end at the close. One of the ways I'll be able to determine is, can I get below my last swing low, which is underneath the volume point of control? That's this mark right here at 62.88. If I can't get below 62.88, even if we go to 62, if we drive straight to 63.11, that reduced size trade will get reduced even less because I don't want to get caught in a one timing situation, right? You'll notice once we break that one timing, we start to go to two-sided trade on the half-hour trade. So see how we came down? We start one timing all the way up, and until we break that one timing, that was an inside bar, so this is the bar I want to break, right? Until we break that inside bar, up. Now we've broken. See how we broke right there? Now look how the price action goes two-sided once we break the one timing over here to the left. So I'm looking for a replay to happen, that exact break of this one timing feature going on, which means I'm going to need to see what happens in the first half hour to get that. So we'll put all the pieces together. We'll watch the profile through the day, right? And I'm quite confident we'll have a good day. A lot of y'all had a really fantastic day yesterday. By the way, that's okay. That's NQ. Let's grab ES really quick. You'll see much the same picture. All the volumes come in on top. We're opening above prior day's value here to the left. If we break that out, you can see all the volumes built on top. I would assume that they're going to try to shake some of these guys out pretty early. As long as we hold above the point of control, I would assume this is now going to act as support. If you'll look over multiple days, right? There we go. Let's fix that. There we are. You'll look. This is the first time in days that we're opening above value area, whether it was the overnight session or the day session, right? Starting here, we just started chunking lower and lower. Value kept moving lower and lower. We're now above value, right? My assumption is that these were late sellers, and unless we get underneath this, right, that we now have late sellers that are going to have to come in and push us up, right? So the picture's changed a little bit, and that's good for us, right? So, and you'll see we really started to accelerate to the downside once we got underneath the value builds. But now the contra to that is, and the reason why I expect it grindy is look at all the value that's been built here on a bigger picture all the way through this area, which usually argues for slow grind. And so I'm good on the slow grind. NQ is driving, by the way, straight towards that 63.11. And guys who joined us for the market preview, thank you for joining. If you'd like to come in the room or be a guest in the room, you can email me at tradeandperform, TRADENPERFORM @gmail.com. And we are more than happy to have you as a 5-day guest into the room. And there's more great learning and trading going on throughout the course of the day. So everyone, trade well, don't blow up, don't draw down. We're testing Globex high on ES. We're above Globex high on NQ. Again, I'm waiting. My expectation is they're going to try to shake out some of those guys early in the day. If they don't, I'll look for dips and I'll work against that dip in the process of a trend. I expect this 63.08 to 63.19 area to get tested and then probably rejected early on and then make an attempt down towards retest Wednesday's high. It's doubtful that the sellers just disappeared and went to the Never Land. They usually try to step back in, particularly considering the down rotations we've had the last couple of days. That would be pretty normal, right? So anyways, I will talk to you later, guys. Have a wonderful day. Guys, the room's obviously open and I'm there in a second.